Hi friends, I'm Katie Brinkley and you're listening to Rocky Mountain Marketing. With nearly 2 decades helping business owners, consultants, and coaches with their digital marketing, I know that social media can be an incredible tool to grow your business when you know how to do it the right way. And that's what we're going to do today. I teach you how to navigate the world of entrepreneurship and digital marketing, and hopefully you'll grow your business with a few great tips you wouldn't have known otherwise, and maybe even discover a great local business you love. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. I'm sitting down with another Denver-based entrepreneur to talk about their entrepreneur journey, what led them here, what mistakes they've made. And I love these episodes because there's so many great businesses here in Colorado that we really wouldn't have had the opportunity to know more about if it wasn't for a moment of chance that our two paths have crossed. So I'm sitting down with Chad Hadersbeck, and he is going to talk to us about his journey into entrepreneurship. And he's been helping entrepreneurs to stop eating the microphone. What the heck am I talking about here? This is something that is so cool for us that are utilizing podcasting, or if you're a musician. This is a really neat tool. And Chad and I actually met each other here at Shift Workspaces. My office is at Shift Workspaces. Chad comes in all the time. We started talking one day, I believe, over one of the networking happy hours that Shift has here. And he started talking to me about this really cool tool. And I said, all right, Chad, you got to come on my show, Rocky Mountain Marketing. He said, this sounds amazing. Should I come in and do it in person? And I said, no. Go do it from home so we can see the tool. I want to see this mic trainer in action. Yep. And for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see this amazing little dongle that is changing the way that musicians, I don't know, a little kickstand for your chin.
Yeah, that works. That works.
A chin stand. And so Chad, talk to us just a little bit about what brought you here to Colorado in the first place. And then we'll talk into going down the world of being an entrepreneur, because man, it is quite a journey being an entrepreneur. And I feel like everyone's journey is a little bit different. So what brought you here to Colorado?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks, Katie, for having me on. Officially, I'm pretty sure if anyone's watched this video, you've seen me walk by in the background. I walk by her office all the time while there's a podcast going on. So I've probably been on once before in that capacity. I'm originally from Michigan.
Go Blue.
Born and raised, and went to school at Michigan State. Started working in communications, advertising, and worked there in the Detroit area for a couple of years. Lived in Texas for 7 years, just following my career, and eventually moved to Denver about 10 years ago. It was time for a new spot. My brother, who had been living in Dallas, where I was living at the time, moved here. He followed Jack Kerouac's lead and loved Denver and wanted to move here. And we played a lot of music at the time, and still do. Wasn't ready to break up the band, so to speak. And so I followed up here and spent most of my time working in advertising here. But outside of that, we played a lot of open mics. Figured out how to play music together. We're about 5 years apart in age. And that's really, I think him and I getting together as adults and figuring out how to play music together was really the impetus for following this creative journey. And, I guess like lighting that fire, you need passion to be able to pursue anything like this. So, my career's always been in advertising and marketing, and the pandemic hit, and I actually was, not working, but right before the pandemic hit, I had just left a job and was taking the holidays off and thought, this is the end of 2019. I'll just wait until the next year and then I'll start looking for a job. I got Thanksgiving. I'm going to travel for Christmas and, I'm fine. I'll be good. I've got a great resume and it won't take me that long. Well, sure enough, the next year, the pandemic hits and, a lot of people are out of jobs and I'm trying to figure out my next step and I'm having difficulty just getting a call back. I have what I think is a pretty is a strong resume. If I looked at my resume, I'd go, great. He's worked at some reputable places, reputable shops, help them achieve success, usually stays at companies, long tenures. I think last gig I was working for 7 years there. So about summertime rolled around and I went, I had gotten to the final 2 of a job and didn't get hired. And I was feeling a little bit like, despair or, down on myself. But I thought, you know what? No, like this, maybe this is an opportunity for me. I don't like to say everything happens for a reason. I like to say there's opportunity in everything. Right. And I went, maybe there's an opportunity for me to bet on myself, to pursue something. Like some of my favorite quotes, 2 of my favorite quotes. I feel like I'm on a soapbox here already, so just feel free to interject at any time. 2 of my favorite quotes. One is from a silly 1990s movie called The Edge, and Anthony Hopkins is giving a rousing speech, and he says, "What one man can do, another can do." And he's saying this to Alec Baldwin. There's a bear trying to eat them, and they're going to kill this bear. But this is his quote, and that has always stuck with me. What one man can do, another can do. And another is by Steve Jobs, and I'll kind of paraphrase. He basically said, everything in this world, everything that you look, everything that you can see was created by somebody with no more talent than you or I, right? And those kind of things always have stuck in my head, and I'd always had a lot of different, random business ideas. Oh, maybe I could do this or that, and never done anything with them. So this all kind of coalesced in the pandemic time, and I went, maybe, this is the time, I'm going to bet on myself, believe in these things that I have always ingrained in me, and finally find one of these, when that little voice goes, oh, why don't they make something like this? Or why don't they do something like that? And I actually had a different idea in music. So I started pursuing that. And that led me actually to the mic trainer, which you might not have noticed is actually on my microphone right now. It's this little guy. As I mentioned, I'm a musician, and if you're anywhere near microphones at any time, you've probably heard you're not supposed to eat the mic, right? Eating the microphone is putting your lips right on the grill. And it changes the sound for everybody. Okay, the way that these microphones are designed, the way they're designed is the closer you get, they're going to roll the bass up a little bit and roll off the treble, and that's going to limit some of your plosives, right? That's what that foam cover on your microphone does, right? It's going to limit some of those hard P's, hard T's. So the microphones are just doing their job. What I noticed though is I was always eating the mic, and when I knew I wasn't supposed to, right? I was going, well, wait, why am I doing this? And I'd be playing at band practice with the mates, and I just go, why don't they just make something? I think I just physically need to know where the microphone is. That's why I'm always eating it, right? Like I'm not an amazing guitarist, so I'm very often kind of looking down at my guitar to see what my fingers are doing. Really ADD. So I've literally been, I'll be up on stage, and sometimes if I don't close my eyes, I'm going, oh, hey, look, Katie's here. Like, oh, I wonder what drink that is that she ordered. And oh, who did she bring? Like, do I know that person? They kind of look familiar. And and I'm literally singing a song. And I go, dude, you're on stage singing a song. Pay attention to what you're doing, So I figured out, okay, this isn't a knowledge gap. It's not that I don't know I'm not supposed to eat the mic. It's that I needed a physical guide of where it was so that I could do these other things and pay attention and have a good show, right? For me, closing my eyes, helps me feel like I'm in the moment. Like I'm just expressing myself and not caring what I look like or what's going on. It's helping me to feel these things. And so I don't want to pull that out of, what I do on stage, or I don't want to change myself due to the fact that there just isn't a physical guide that, makes sure that I don't close my eyes. And then when I open them back up, figure out I've drifted off 4 inches, completely changing the sound for everybody in the audience. Right?
Yeah.
So I made this little guy, the mic trainer, and I'll try and do it kind of quietly so I'm not messing with the microphone too much. This little guy, 2-part, dropped it. 2 parts, one nice stretchy silicone band. Okay, so it fits just about any performance microphone. And this little, what did you say? Dongle.
Yeah. When I said a chin stand, a little kickstand.
Oh, a chin stand. Yeah. Oh, I like that. You like a kickstand.
Yeah, a kickstand for your chin.
No, I like that. So they just fit together, and this will go on to just about any performance microphone. And one thing that I had to figure out was, well, what kind of contact do I want here, right? I don't want to poke my eye out, or
Yeah.
or even have something that's too too noticeable. Like people are going, what the hell is that on that guy's microphone? Or some musicians are a little bit self-conscious and they don't want to go, oh, like I need an aid to help me use a microphone.
Yeah.
So I thought this was going to be a training device, and I'd go, oh well, this little guy. And right now I'm kind of putting it on my chin here. When I'm playing music, I typically put it a little bit in this area between my lip and my chin, a little where your soul patch might grow if you're if a guy, or maybe girls have soul patches growing. I don't know, whatever your deal is. So that's kind of the nice little area, and it feels nice and comfortable. And what it turned out is it wasn't a training aid for me. I just liked using it, so I use it all the time. I play shows with this.
Okay, so not only were you given the opportunity to invent something, now you had to try and grow a business around your invention. That sounds like a very daunting task. And, you mentioned too that here you were at a point where you have a resume that speaks for itself. You shouldn't have, but you're going through a global pandemic. So you decide to invent a tool to help musicians, podcasters, anyone that's using a microphone get that perfect placement of where they should be speaking into it. But now you have to grow a business around that. And if you thought that just like sending out resumes was hard, like this seems like it'd be an entirely different battle to take on. So I guess let's just talk for anyone that's listening right now that's ever thought like, wouldn't it be cool if I had this thing? I wouldn't even know how to go about creating it. I wouldn't even know how to go about like inventing it, but I think it'd be really cool. I have this great idea. How did you go from, I don't know what to do, no one's hiring me, to I have a great idea, to now here you are using it, selling it, and growing a business around it?
Well, it was a little bit of a roundabout journey, I would say. As I mentioned, I had a different idea in the music space that I will still pursue in the future here, now that I have a little bit of experience under my belt. So I was pursuing that idea, and I was talking to a vocal coach that I had worked with previously, as a singer. I'm a singer in a band as well as a guitar player, obviously.
It's an indie band, right? An indie music, right? What's the name of your band?
In the Denver area, it's called Goodnight Freeman.
All right.
We play out around Denver. We're actually looking for a drummer right now. So if you're a really talented drummer, looking to join an established band, hit us up. We'll talk about my contact info at the end here. But so I'm talking with a vocal coach and about this other idea, and as a throw in, and I'm like, oh, and then I got this like little mic trainer idea that I want to go, and she's just like floored. She goes, that's it. That's got to be it. It's more universal than the previous idea. Like, I hate when people eat the microphone. Any sound tech will tell you. I think I left it out previously, and I'm going to bookmark where I was real quick to just do an aside. Is anyone could tell you that when there's something touching your lips, like a mask per se, we all experienced that the last 2 or 3 years, you start to mumble as well, right? So if you put your lips right on that grill, you're going to start to, not move them quite as much. You're going to start to mumble a little bit. So add that to no treble being on there. And, sound engineers hate when people eat the mic, right? So you've been to a show where you can't understand what the singer is saying. So that's oftentimes what's going on. Anyways, circling back here. So I went, okay, that's the idea. I'm not an amazing designer. I took some design courses in college, but my course in marketing and advertising was more on the strategy side. So I did some rudimentary. It starts with just pencil drawings, whatever you can do, and just trying to make it right. I've made this thing out of coat hangers, out of just anything that I could find, trying to cut some plastic apart. And, I ordered, similar things, stuff that might attach to a microphone, but have a different idea or a different use. So I, shopped around and eventually kind of got to, all right, this is what I think it's going to look like. And I found a 3D printer here, in Denver. Actually it's Denver 3D printing company. Adam Zimmer over there, shout out. And I took my rudimentary designs, and he actually used to be a patent examiner. So he helps people, invent little things. So I would go sit in his office, and I'd show him this mic trainer used to look like this little like hula skirt. I kind of wanted it to have multiple little arms out, and he had the experience to go, okay, this is a good idea. This might be harder to manufacture this way. So we found a simpler expression of it. And I've got the graveyard here, actually. This whole box, let's see if we can see these. These are all former prototypes. And actually, I pulled the very first one out. This was 3D printed. This little guy didn't work worth. Eventually, got down to this little guy here, and this was more hard plastic. This guy's still nice and flexible, but the attachment point wasn't quite as good. It works really nicely with the SM58, but you get any other type of microphone, and it would like slide down if the angle wasn't right. It just didn't work as well. So I went down to some other ideas and figured out, okay, I need a more flexible strap. Maybe it's going to be this little guy here with different attachment points and sizing. And Adam helped me out and goes, no, the silicone is made so that you can stretch it out. Let's just use the material, right? So we 3D printed all of these and eventually got to a point where I went, okay, I'm ready to manufacture. And I had taken some Denver startup courses and through some networking found out, okay, how do I find a manufacturer? Sourced some here in the States, I should say. And if anybody's manufactured something, it's difficult. It's difficult to manufacture in the US right now. It really is. It's about 10 times as expensive. So I figured out through some networking and through referrals, a manufacturer in Shanghai, actually, who, was able to create the molds for me and send me some tests over and, test out some different material. So I'm working with somebody. And this is still in the pandemic. This I had to figure out patent processes. We're patent pending, should be full patent really any minute now. I think they said May was their estimate. So must be running a little bit behind. But gosh, there's a lot of other things, I don't want to dive too deeply into it. I'm figuring out packaging. I recently got my retail packaging in. Look at that.
That's awesome.
You recognize that guy?
Well, and I think that, so you said you went to Denver Startup Week and you met a lot of people that were willing to help, willing to just give you different ideas. And was it Denver Startup Week or did you go to another networking event?
Little of both, actually. I took a program called Co-Starters, and it was offered through a Denver small business help type organization, DEDO, I believe it is, Denver Economic Development Organization. I would guess that is. Took that course, and I part of it towards the end of it, Denver Startup Week was happening. And they have a physical product showcase. So I got to have a physical booth there with, some mic trainers and show it to some people. So got to do some networking through there. And it was actually one of the other members, actually, who you either are having on soon or have already had on, Brad, from Finding Nectar Nursery, was, he was somebody I just was asking around, hey, does anybody have any manufacturing contacts? And he had a family friend who's, oh, well, this guy used to manufacture stuff in China all the time. So he was the one who, hooked me up with my current manufacturer. So
that's cool.
Just asking for help, asking around, hey, I don't know this. I could, Google is endless. The internet is endless, right? Or if anyone's found the end, let me know. And, I often suffer from analysis paralysis, right? Like I'll research and like, oh, this one's close. This one, but what about this? What about that? And then a week has gone by and you haven't made a decision, right? And another quote that I like is, don't be perfect, be done, right? So something I really try and embrace is if I don't know something, first I'll ask my network. Somebody will probably have done this research and then also have a personal experience with whatever end result it was and can go, this was great, or I would look out for this. So, oftentimes those little shortcuts of just talking to people you trust, having people around you that are doing things like this, and then following what they say. As a often solopreneur, and I have had people help. I don't want to say that I've done everything myself by any means, but oftentimes it's just me sitting here by myself, and it can be really hard to make that final decision oftentimes. So just kind of coming up with some frameworks for yourself that forces you to move forward, as opposed to getting stalled out on one, oftentimes very trivial part of your journey, is important, at least for me.
Well, and I think that is something that as entrepreneurs, we get stuck in that. We want it to be perfect because nobody's going to care about our business as much as we do. No matter who we hire or who we bring in, no one's going to care as much as we do. And so you do get that analysis paralysis. What would you say has been one of the biggest ways that you've been able to overcome that hurdle of it's not worrying about, all right, is this perfect? Let's just get this done. And is that always the best route to go?
When I first got to Denver, early in my early years, and Joe, my brother, and I were playing around some open mics. We wanted to start a band. All we had is like iPhone recordings of like us playing at open mic. Coming around to answer your question, sometimes I'll sign myself up for something in the future and just go, all right, I don't need more time. What I need is a deadline. It's Duke Ellington said that, right? So like, I loved how that worked out for us because we went, okay, our friend John ended up playing bass for us. And a week before the show, a drummer friend of ours was like, yeah, I can sit in on the show with you. Let's just get 1 or 2 practices in. And so we played, and like inside of a month, we played a show as a full band, right? So putting yourself into some of these like situations, I find like can kind of help you, give you that nudge. And an example is, I was signed up to go to North American Music Merchants show. It's called NAMM. Anybody in the music industry knows what NAMM is. It's kind of the like the Oscars, the Super Bowl, the big event. Oh, sorry, the big game. The big event for the music industry. People go there to launch products, and you have Taylor and Gibson and all these huge companies launching super expensive guitars. I bought a booth, just forked over the money, bought a booth, and was like, okay. Don't really have a product to sell right now. The manufacturer was still shut down. Wasn't able to. They got me 10 prototypes before they had to shut down. So I went to this show where people, there's thousands upon thousands of people displaying their awesome products, and I've got 10 in the world, and I'm just showing it to people, going, does anybody like this? Do you guys think this is good? And people are stopping. I have a video. It's on the website, MikeTrainer.com. I have a compilation of everybody's reactions there. And it was just, people stop. This is brilliant. This is the coolest thing that we've seen at this show. This is the most unique. Oh my gosh, people need to stop eating the mic. And, it was just a learning point and also a great like confidence builder, because I'm sure Katie, as an entrepreneur yourself, like you go through these times where imposter syndrome comes up, or, I'm stupid, or I'm, man, that wasn't a good decision, or why is this taking so long? Or, just really, it's easy to get down on yourself, particularly if you don't have like a strong network of people around you all the time, giving you that positive reinforcement. So just kind of forcing yourself into some of these uncomfortable situations, at least for me, like has helped to foster growth, to get over that fear of like, is this a good decision or not? It's just make it and see what happens. Maybe it won't be a good decision, but oftentimes like this world that you're building in your head of the worst possible scenarios, right? And that's what's going on in your head. And I got there and I'm setting up the booth, before there's people that are let in. It's just me and this huge, like I'd never been to NAMM, it's in the Anaheim Convention Center. So there's just like, thousands of different tables and areas and halls and like people walking around everywhere and setting up fancy stuff. And I'm still just like, oh my God, imposter syndrome's going crazy right now. Like I'm not supposed to be here. So like up until the very first people walked up and I got to tell them what it was, I was still thinking, get ready to be embarrassed. 3 days of embarrassment. Here it comes. And then like, it was complete opposite. It just totally energized me for months after that. People wanted to buy, I had these silly shirts, stop eating the mic. People wanted to buy the shirts. They wanted to buy, the prototypes that, I had 9 at that point. I think I even lost one. Short story long of just, kind of forcing myself into overcoming some of these analysis paralysis things has helped me to, I think, move forward.
Yeah. And I think that with all of this, you went from, hey, I think this is a great idea, to then going to this huge music conference saying, does anyone else think that this is a good idea? To, yeah, it is. Here you are. You have your packaging. How are you? I mean, you've been doing a lot of bootstrap marketing right now. You're going out to these events saying, hey, this is my idea. What do you think? Do you want to try it? Do you want to buy it? What are you seeing work as far as marketing right now? Now that you have the packaging, now that the prototype is done, like you've been doing all of the build up to this, what marketing is working for you to get this microphone tester out to the public?
Sure. Well, NAMM has been so far the best thing. Sold dozens and dozens of units there, just right there on the spot. as a roundabout way to answer. So NAM has worked out really well, some traditional methods, which is event marketing, building up an email list. When I do an email blast, I usually get a few sales from those. And, I'm kind of in the crawl, walk, run, right? Like I have a day job and I struggle as an entrepreneur finding enough time to focus, if I was doing this 9 to 5 or, this was my sole way of making money right now, I think I'd be a lot farther along. So on the marketing side, I often feel, that I'm maybe neglecting it in favor of, packaging is obviously a form of marketing, but, I need packaging to get it into retail I need to do X, Y, Z. I need to figure out taxes, how to pay sales tax and when to pay sales tax. I need to figure out, how to build a wholesale program so that I can have retailers. So I need to figure out the music industry and figure out, okay, how do people get stuff into a music store? Oh, there's a whole network of distributors. Oh, and there's manufacturer reps. So I feel a lot of these things are really kind of taking the focus away from marketing, but I like to try and think about the long-term game, right? Like Mike Trainer for me is something that I want to make sure is flourishing 5 years from now. In order to do that, sometimes I have to be a little bit patient, and I haven't gotten to spend as much time on marketing. Right now, I've been doing a lot of just organic social marketing, finding those profiles, finding my hashtags, finding what's getting responses, making sure my website is something that can convert a sale. And again, I think that's one of these points. Hey, I'm coming on a marketing podcast. And, one of the things that I was thinking about beforehand is like, I've not been doing a good job of marketing. I've been getting bogged down in a lot of these other stuff. So I think, for me, this is another one of those, let's take a jump forward, right? Katie is an expert in marketing and probably can shoot a whole bunch of holes in what I've been doing, right? Like the pop or the cobbler's kids have no shoes, right? Is what they always say, right? Is like, I've not been making shoes for my little baby brand and putting them out there as much as I could be. But so for right now, it's a lot of the traditional blocking and tackling stuff that I've had to do. But, I would say like, that's the good start of any marketing, right? Is like making sure you can make a conversion, right? I could make an awesome video or a viral video and then get to the website. And if it looks like, an unprofessional, I'm not going to make a purchase here, or I have to even, leave a social platform to make this purchase. Making sure that those conversion funnels are set up is, I think, been important for me lately. And now when I do reach out, the somewhat few occasions that I have been, we're seeing those conversions happening, I think, because, I've been doing that background work.
And I think that too, with what you're doing, getting the product out there in front of people so that they can see it, they can touch it, they can see hear your story and the passion that you have behind it is essential. And the fact that you're coming on a podcast right now, using the tool, it's going to, for people that are just listening, they can hear, well, he sounds really good. It sounds like he's speaking into the microphone at the right spot. He's not, moving around, talking over here. He's speaking right where he should be. And this is the type of marketing of seeing the product in action that I think is going to help with all of your marketing efforts. And
they're all great learning experiences,
exactly.
Right? So I went to NAM a second time. This was in April, I guess it was. And the very first guy I met there, his nickname's Chef, but he's in live sound. He's done some, really big live sound events. And he goes, I'm, of course, wearing my t-shirt, which was, came out of the first NAM, right? Like I noticed people go, oh, that's a great idea. But then they go, oh, well, that's a great t-shirt. I want to buy that. And I made like a handful the week before because I'm like, oh, I should have something to at least wear at my booth, right? So each one of these things was like this learning event that added to it. So this live sound guy goes, oh, Mike Trainer, I know about that. I go, how? He goes, I don't know. Somebody had one. And I had given away a handful at the previous NAM. So, they're getting seeded out there and I'm learning what industries are even interested, right? Like for me, I think any marketer, it's really easy to fall into like, well, all of my customers are going to be like me, right? They're going to be a DIY, do-it-yourself musician, who's probably playing open mics, playing the local clubs, not getting tons and tons of stage time, practicing whatever, but, needs a practice aid that's not too expensive. This thing retails right now for $15. Well, it's on sale for $15 right now. It'll eventually be $20.
It's a steal.
Yeah, it's at least half the price of 30 minutes with a vocal coach, right?
Yeah.
But I'm starting to learn, oh, live sound engineers are loving this thing. I need to start talking to them.
What type of events can you go to? What type of sound engineer events can you go to? What kind of podcasting events where there's going to be sound engineers there? What events can you go to?
There's one here in Denver.
There is one coming up here in Denver.
In October.
Yes. Man, look at us. It's like we're going to be at the same event.
Well, I used to be a wedding DJ, so that's how I put myself through college. And I handed a microphone to so many drunk people that didn't know how to use it, right? And you tell them, hey, keep it about right here, right? Well, they're drinking and they don't give speeches. So as they're talking, it kind of slowly drifts and drifts and drifts and drifts. And as a sound person, you start bumping the gain. We need more volume. People can't hear this person. It's getting farther away. Somebody in the back finally goes, we can't hear you. And they go, oh, is this better? And squawk, you get the big feedback. Everybody thinks, oh, this is the sound guy. This is the DJ's problem. It's like, no, this is somebody who doesn't know how to use a microphone is trying to use a microphone. So this little guy's adjustable. I'm going to put it up here even farther. Now, if you're a wedding DJ, just go hand it to somebody and say, hey, just keep it at the bottom of your chin here. If this thing's touching, and you're not going to notice it. You're not going to see it in the pictures. It's nice and discreet. But if that's not touching the bottom of your chin, then you're not in the right position, right? So as an amateur speaker, you can start educating people. Maybe it's not just maybe it's not a wedding speech giver, but, somebody at a corporate event who's trying to, give a speech for the first time and isn't really up on proper microphone etiquette. So there's a lot of different ways you can slice and dice comedians, podcasters, visually impaired people. Yeah. Which was something that I learned at the First NAMM that I never thought of, right? Like, how do you find a microphone if you're not, seeing properly, right? So
yeah. Well, and Chad, one final question that I want to ask you here before we wrap this up is, you've gone through Michigan State. You've been a marketer for years. You know marketing, business strategy, sales strategy, all of these things. What have you found to be the biggest learning curve between marketing for you and your own brand versus marketing for somebody else?
That's a great question, Katie. I've got nearly 20 years under my belt at this point, and you start off and you're in the trenches a lot. I think doing things for yourself, and as most careers go, the further you get, sometimes the further away from the actual work you get, if that makes sense, right? You move from, oh, well, I'm putting together a social media plan to, now I'm managing the overall strategy. Somebody else is maybe, pushing the buttons on XYZ tactic, right? So when you become an entrepreneur, when there isn't that team of people, or oftentimes, let's be frank, the funding, you can just pay anybody to do all of these things. But when it's just your money coming out of your pocket, you have to kind of get back into the trenches and relearn how to do some of these things. So I think for me, that's been something that I've been learning, that I've been trying to improve, finding those areas to go, all right, this might be worth me spending a lot of time on, or this is something that I'm going to come out of pocket and speed up the timeline, increase the quality on. So finding what those lines are have really become, I think, a focus of mine, and something that has been a struggle, I think, sometimes as well. But as far as coming from representing other people's brands to representing my own, I think that something that's universal across all of that is authenticity. I think people really crave that. You find brands that are just very uniquely theirs, and it feels like they're not trying too hard or trying to be something that they're not. And I think that's been something that's something that I found while representing other people's brands, and something that I have to constantly tell myself, while representing my own brand, which is, how can I make it authentic? And, Ready, Set, Show is my LLC. You see a little sign back up there. And, we'll have some other products coming out. But what's authentically us is just helping people have their best performance, no matter if they're, a singer or a speech giver or a podcaster. We want to take off the things that add stress. Performing can be a bit of a stress. Being in front of people can be a bit of a stress. So if we can just add a little bit of, now I don't have to worry about eating the mic at all. I can close my eyes and be free and know that I'm going to stay in the right position. That's kind of what's authentically us. I'm not a gearhead. I wanted it to be very analog. I'm sure you could probably figure out a way to make this into an app. Yeah. And, somehow if I put an AirTag on my chin and, figure out if I'm getting too close or far away, it'll buzz in my pocket. I'm sure there's a technological way you could probably do this, but, I think being authentically me is like, let's keep this analog. Let's keep it simple. That's how I collect gear. That's the kind of gear that I like, is very simple, easy to use things. So,
love it.
I think those are kind of my themes as I've grown from a marketer of other people's products to my own.
Well, if people are interested in learning more about the Mic Trainer, more about you, getting in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do so?
Well, I have a nice little URL. Just go to mictrainer.com/Chad, and you'll find all of my contact info, our social handles. As a budding and growing business, it helps. If you're able to follow us on the social channels, it's Mike_Trainer on Instagram, Mike Trainer on Facebook. You can find us all those links are available at mictrainer.com/Chad. Of course, the purchase helps. Maybe you're not in the market for a Mic Trainer, but you like snarky t-shirts. You can buy these t-shirts on our website. I'm always up for networking. Let's grab a coffee. Let's talk business ideas. Keeping that inspiration, the good juices flowing are really important to anybody in the entrepreneurial world, as I'm sure you know. So just finding ways to lift each other up. And something that I always ask myself when I'm interacting with another entrepreneur is, if I were them, what would I want me to do? And then I always try and do that, right? So if you're able and think it's a good idea, share it with your network, or, share it with a musician friend of yours, or, any of those things. Be a good human.
Amazing. Well, Chad, thank you so much for joining me on Rocky Mountain Marketing. This has been an amazing conversation.
Thank you so much, Katie. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me, and I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Yeah. Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Make sure to subscribe so that you can continue navigating the world of entrepreneurship. And I'd love to hear from you. Please leave the show a review and connect with me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at @IamKatieBrinkley, or connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you're ready to start making some sales on social media, be sure to grab my free guide to selling in the DMs without being spammy. You can get that at katiebrinkley.com. Let's keep taking your marketing to all new heights.